that idea that like, well, I want my child to tell me everything, so I'm going to be an open book. Those two things don't necessarily go together at all. I think it's important to recognize that a lot of the times in my personal experience of working with teens who kind of have all the information, what they have is all of the anxiety, and they take on such a big responsibility on trying to figure out who is right and wrong.
If betrayal trauma has touched your life, you're not alone, and healing is possible. This is Betrayal Recovery Radio, the official podcast of the Association of Partners of Sex Addict Trauma Specialists. I'm Dr. Jake Porter, and each week we explore the science, soul, and stories of transformation after betrayal. This podcast is for betrayed partners, for those who've caused harm, and for the professionals walking with them through the healing. Because even in the ashes of betrayal, something beautiful, something strong, something triumphant can rise. Welcome to this episode of Betrayal Recovery Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Jake Porter, and I'm here today with Ellia Marcum. Ellia is the editor of Turning to Peace magazine, an incredible resource for betrayed partners. We'll talk more about that later on in our conversation. She is also a certified brain spotting practitioner and a coach for teens and adult children impacted by parental sexual betrayal. Welcome, Ellia. So glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So, I want to give you a moment to introduce yourself. What else do people need to know about you?
Oh, okay. So I think just some quick things to know about me is that I'm coming from a space of not only being trained as a teen coach, a teen mental health coach, but also having some experience working with partners. So on that side, being a parent who has gone through betrayal, but also being a teenager and young adult who have had betrayal, attachment rupture from in my family growing up as well.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you can see this from many, many different angles.
Yes, and walked through a lot of personal healing, as a child going through it, as a teen. I should say a teen, not so much a child, but as a teenager walking through this, I've done so much healing work from teenager to young adult.
Wow, that's really wonderful. And I know, and we talked a little bit about this before I hit the record button. We want to, and this is important to me. It's important to our podcast, important to AppSats. We want to respect people's stories. And, as we have this conversation, I just want to acknowledge right now that you have a desire to honor the folks in your family and the parts of the story that are theirs to tell, versus the parts of the story that are yours to tell. And so I want to say to our listeners, please join us in wanting to honor that boundary and have that respect as well. And so with that in mind, Ellia, can you talk about what it was like for you as a kid, your experience of this betrayal?
So I think to start out, I had just really struggled with abandonment. My parents had gotten a divorce. That was really hard on me. And I think looking back as a parent now and looking back at little Ellia, I think, oh, wow. I see so much of the qualities of the pain and just the coping that I was trying to do. When I think about myself and how angry I was as a teenager, and how reactive I was as a teenager, I can see as a parent now looking back, wow, you really were going through it. And, my parents, my mom specifically at the time, she did really, really, really great at getting me, in to see really good therapists. I can say that right now, the majority, I did healing work in therapy 4 years up until like adulthood. And I was working through, as a teenager sitting there, I was working through normal teenage things too. So,
yeah.
But those normal teenage things were so much more dramatic and so much more difficult because I had family rupture.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing for people to understand. Those who are listening, parents, maybe even grandparents listening, who have a kid or a grandchild who maybe they're real close to, and betrayal is affecting them, and you're watching betrayal affect this kid you love, to talk about what's happening developmentally for adolescents, which you just alluded to. And so some of the things that we know about adolescents are that frontal lobe is still forming. And so because of that immaturity of the brain, emotional regulation pretty low, because other parts of the brain that feel emotion feel it really intensely, and we don't have the balancing piece for impulse control. That's one important piece. Also, we know that children, or adolescents rather, kids in that stage of development, are very egocentric. They feel like everyone's watching them. It's called the invisible audience. Yeah. Everyone's watching them. Everything's about them. That's a real brain thing going on.
Oh yeah.
And so I can imagine, right? Here's this thing that's really, it's happening between your parents. It's very much affecting you though, or the teen. And yeah, also teens are very sensitive to attachment rupture or relational ruptures.
And my specific situation, there was high conflict. My parents were from my perspective, it was a high conflict relationship. So there was always arguing, like even after the divorce, and they were not, living in completely. And there was, even personally, like there was a lot of bitterness towards both of my parents for different reasons at the time and at different ages. And just having to navigate that. And at the same time, I'm going to school. I graduated in a class of around 800. Like my graduating class of high school was so large, and having to basically navigate all of the relationships, friendships, like teenage survival in this high school.
Right.
Like it was so much. And it was always go, go, go. Just the lifestyle of a teenager in high school, was just go, go, go.
And so, teens are already facing all these struggles. You add that on top of it. You talk about the high conflict sort of dynamic that you're witnessing in the home. And that brings up for me another important thing to talk about that comes up a lot when I'm talking with parents who have kids going through this. And you're seeing the conflict between mom and dad, right? So often the betrayed partner, from the child's perspective, looks like the villain, or at least equally a perpetrator, because these trauma symptoms are coming out. There's this injustice they feel, and it is unjust. There is, it isn't fair, but the kid can't help but see parents as a unit, even if they are divorced. Whatever the relationship is, the parents are still the parents.
And you don't want to pick a side. You don't want to have to choose between the two.
Yes. And it's not, and this is one of those things. It is absolutely an injustice in circumstances of betrayal that, yes, clearly one person has been victimized, has been perpetrated against. The betrayed partner has been perpetrated against, but it is not therefore okay to try to align a child with one parent over the other.
And in my case,
Can
Oh,
you
for
talk
sure.
about
So
that?
in my
Yeah.
case specifically, I remember distinctly um, not wanting to go to my dad's, like on the weekends. Like I did not, it was so different. It was so, like, it was so uncomfortable because my dad, both my parents moved out of the house, and they both got their new places. But I just remember just being very uncomfortable having to switch weekends with go to my dad's and stuff. And I really didn't want to. And my mom, as as a mom, navigating the court system and, trying in custody and all of those things, my mom's really just like, this is what the court ordered. And I just remember just really not wanting to do that. And like I said, I'm coming also from a parent. It's so hard to like honor, like, man, like I get that you just need kind of that space to like process, because everything I feel like happens so fast. Everything is unfamiliar. And you're not really given a lot of time to adjust. And I say that because of all the other things that are going on in your life. As a teenager, you have homework, you have sports, you have all these other things that are still happening while your parents are moving, while your parents are, bickering over the phone, while your parents are, still trying to figure out like holidays and, weekend drop-offs and all of those things. Like, it's so overwhelming. Yeah, and I'm getting caught up in my story, and I had completely forgot what your original question was.
No, it's okay. No, you're right on track.
Okay.
You're right on track. I was talking about, the dynamics between the parents, and you went right into where I was actually headed, which is about this feeling of having to choose. Right. And then no kid wants to do that, even if, like you said, that you felt uncomfortable, this new space, but you still don't want to choose one parent over another.
I still didn't want to not choose. I still didn't want to disappoint either one of them. And I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings, because it was like, I really don't like, it goes down. Let me say this. I remember distinctly not liking the smell of my dad's new apartment. Completely out of my dad's control. You know what I mean? It was just apartment complexes, like they can have smells, but like I just didn't, it was so different, and it was just so, so not what I was used to, that I didn't want to go over there. Another really good example, and especially since we're just when this comes out, we just had holidays and stuff. When it would come around to like the holiday, I would get so upset if things were not what I had grown familiar with. They, like traditions and things, like I just remember being like, no, it has to stay that way. Now, I think it's really important to notice and to mention that there are some kids who don't want to do any of the things that they are traditionally are used to, because the household is different. But for me, I was very much like, no, I needed some normalcy. Like I needed to, I'm just like, bake the things that I was used to baking as a family, make sure that we were decorating the trees. Like I did not make sure we were going to grandma's. Like I did not want, I just remember really getting upset if things were not the way that I had remembered them. It was like little pieces of normalcy that I still needed when this rupture and things were happening.
Wow. What's coming up for me as I hear you describe your experiences is I think about the APSATS multidimensional partner trauma model. And in that model, we talk about phases of recovery. And the first phase is safety and stability. And thinking about how the kids and you as a teen, this upheaval of life as you've known it, right? It is just like for the parent, not just like, but similarly to the parents, that those early days longing for the safety and the stability of what was.
Mm-hmm.
Right? before you can even get to a place of what does this mean and how do I heal from this, right? There's been such an upheaval. It's like, can I just get to a place where I feel like there's some firm ground beneath my feet?
Yeah. And I think that sometimes, like, you know, from my personal experience from being a mom, I can get like offended almost. I can kind of get offended if like I disappoint my kids in the sense of like something's not what they expected. And then I kind of you can get defensive. So as a parent, you know, especially when you're a mom who's going through, you know, betrayal, or you're even going through the divorce, and you have all of this pressure for yourself, you have all the brain fog, you have all of the symptoms of betrayal, you're exhausted and everything. And then you have this child who is also going through stuff, is kind of their needs are greater than they might have been previously, their emotional needs. Yeah. And it can feel incredibly daunting. And I think looking back on it, if you can create just a couple, if you can make things as, and this is hard because we're talking about, you know, I see a lot online and I agree with it. Like if you're a parent and you're going through a lot, like it's okay to skip these things. It's okay to not do X, Y, Z. It's okay. Sure. You know, I get that. But I think it's also really important to do some of the X, Y, Zs to maintain that safety and stability for your child. And I understand sometimes you just use language like, you know, we can't do that this weekend, or we can't do that this month, or whatever, but maybe next month we can do that. And that's okay. That language builds resiliency, but trying to keep things as normal and being as present as you possibly can without trying to fix anything. Because a lot of times I remember it can be really stressful to like, I cannot fix this for you. And you get frustrated. Like it is what it is. Like this is the situation. You know what I mean? And it's like, instead of getting frustrated, and I'm guilty of this. So I'm guilty of getting frustrated. Just being like, okay, I hear you. You just sit with it like a safe space, just with your kids, understand where they're coming from, and just say like, I totally get that, but like, we can't do that this time. Is there something else that maybe we could do and repair, you know, or even is, you know, does your child, your teenager specifically need an extra person in their life that is not you, that they can lean on? Like I know I offer text and email support with the teens that I work with in between sessions, because with teens, the world ends probably 2 times a day, you know?
Right.
And like you can't, as a parent, you can't keep up with that and all the things.
Well, and there's so much richness in what you just said. So I want to try to unpack some of it. With the last thing you said about having someone else besides a parent, having a trained coach to work with teens, or a therapist or whatever. Another unique feature of adolescent development is adolescence is when children are naturally, biologically pulling away from the family system. They are beginning to naturally try to separate from mom and dad to establish their own identity. That is normal. It's as it should be. It's hard also, but how much more if they're already in a place of biologically feeling that pull away, to have someone else to go to. And here's what I say to the parents I work with: whatever dollars you have to put toward that person, or whatever inconvenience it is to, you know, drive to that church or faith community that has a really good program for teens, or get to that, you know, do that. It is so worth it, because they're going to find other people to talk to about it. Yeah. You want it to be someone who's going to be speaking things into them that they're going to actually help them, rather than maybe do harm. That's one thing. I also want to go back though to something you said that it was, I just think it's so good. And I want to underline it. And I can imagine this happening whether you are the betrayed partner or the partner who committed the betrayal, and you're receiving from that teenager, why can't it be like it used to be, right? They're hurt, they're afraid, they're struggling, their world has been blown up too. They want normalcy, they want security, and they're taking it out on you, right? And in that moment, I mean, what parent hasn't, isn't guilty of frustration, defensiveness, right? And when our kids don't feel satisfied, especially if they're asking something that we cannot give, it's easy to feel like a failure, to go to a place of shame, to react from that. But what you laid out is so good. And what's beautiful about it is exactly what I would say to, say, a man who betrayed his wife, and she's asking for something he can't do right now, like take it all back. Right? We get into fix it mode, right? When what we really need is to be present, attuned, empathic, to join them in that. And we can do the same thing as parents. What you said, it was so good. When your kid is saying, well, why can't we go to grandma's or fill in the blank, whatever the tradition is, right? Hey, I'm sad too. This is upsetting. This is terrible. It is wrong. I agree. I feel it too. I'm sad with you.
Yes.
It's okay to be upset about this. You're not alone in that. And to just give permission rather than correct it.
Right. Or come from a defensive place of mom guilt or dad guilt, and honestly keep that in your back, kind of like empathetic kind of understanding, keep it in your back pocket for the smallest things. Like, no, you can't go over to your friends this weekend. Like, you don't even need a reason. Yeah, I understand that it kind of stinks, but we're, that's just not on the agenda for the weekend.
Yeah.
Like, or you can't go on that trip, or you can't, I can't take you to the mall or whatever the kids are doing.
Right.
Hanging out at the park.
Yeah. Are there malls anymore? I don't know.
The skating rink. No. Yeah. So just keep that, because teenagehood is full of disappointments. Like, it just is. So having someone who is just more empathetic and understanding, but not giving in, but I think that's a huge game changer. Especially, it opens the doors for them to kind of come and talk to you about those greater pains that they end up having, their first breakup, or the first time their friend totally ditches them, or, all those, they don't get into the college that they wanted to get into, all of those things, or when they are young adults and they have their first marital tiff, or they end up getting, whatever it is. It's just a good practice to have.
Yeah. And again, this is a great conversation. I just appreciate it so much, because as I'm imagining this, so I'm trying to kind of live it out in my own mind as you're describing this. And I'm thinking about when I teach boundaries to clients, not just the boundaries we set with others, but our own internal boundaries, right? I have a protective boundary, my responsibility to protect myself from you. So parents, have your boundary up. When your kid blames it all on you, you're the worst, it's all your fault, all of that, that's their reality in the moment. But you don't have to let that all the way in. But I think even more important is that containment boundary. My responsibility to protect you from me. And it's not that I hold it all in, but I also don't let it all out. So in that moment when I'm empathizing with my teen, this stinks. I'm sad too. You're right. It's not right. This is hard, right? In that space. So I'm not holding in my own pain around it, but I'm also not letting it all out. you're right. This is wrong. And it's all because your dad, blah, blah, right. So there's a middle way here that we're really talking
about. And also,
I
think it's important to point out, it's okay to say, I understand, and I totally, like, this is not the way I want it either, but can we, try again on how you approach me? Can you try again on how you speak to me? Because there is, as much as your child is, I'm going to say this, I think it's really important. As much as your child is going through these hard things and they have reactions of dysregulation, it is also very important that you calmly set that boundary of respect. Now, one thing that I will say is, if you can avoid it, do not become dysregulated and shout back if you can, because that just fuels a fire within to continue this feeling of confrontation that they're having internally. They're now going to have it externally with you if you fuel that fire. But to say, hey, try, I totally get it and I want to talk to you about this, but can we, I'm not your enemy. Can we take it down a notch? Because I don't want any parent here accepting rude, disrespectful behavior from their teenagers because life is hard. There's going to be conflict in their lives as adult forever. And they are not going to be able to come to their boss. They're not going to be able to come to their spouse. And they're not going to, they should not be able to come with such a disrespectful attitude to the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, because it's really not in their best interest to let that go, to excuse it. And I mean, a one-off this or that, maybe you shake it off, but that's a parental judgment call. And the flip side of that, I think, is true as well, which is, I'm just imagining some moms and dads listening to this right now, just weighed down with guilt, thinking about all the interactions they've had and maybe feeling really bad about it. And what I want to say to anyone feeling that is, one of the greatest gifts I think we can give our children is acknowledgement of when we've done something that's wrong or off, and offering an apology and making an amends, repairing rupture. And so, hey, okay, you made a snarky comment about dad. Own it. Or mom, you said something, you kind of threw mom under the bus. Own it. Hey, that was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. That was wrong for me to do that to your mom or to your dad. It was also wrong for me to put you in that position. That's not for you to worry. This is between your dad and me. Right.
And that's hard. And I want to really, that can be very, very challenging. I think even for people who, in any relationships, snarkiness can kind of get the best of all of us at times. So we are not as, I think it's, I want to say, if you're watching this as a parent, you're already doing something very healing and doing something very productive. So if you're actively a parent that's seeking information, trying to work on their relationships with their teenagers, if you're trying to look for information to keep them safe and keep them healthy, you're already doing such great things and learning so many great skills that I really encourage you to let some of that parental guilt go, because it's such a huge deal to put it. I think it's just there are a lot of parents who it is what it is, and this is who I am, and I'm never changing. There is so much of that. Yeah. So it's really great if you're already doing so great if you're already putting in the effort.
Yeah, a lot of people sometimes have a hard time believing this, but this is absolutely true. There's tons of research to back up what I'm about to say. If a child sees the parent as perfect, that is actually not helpful. What helps kids is to see grown-ups struggle, mess up, own it, repair, rupture, repair, right? Forgive and ask forgiveness. course correct, that gives them permission to do the same thing, to admit when they're struggling, when they're weak, when they've messed up, that it's okay. And so there's a level of transparency about your own process that is actually a great gift to your child. However, let's talk about transparency. How much should parents tell their adolescent kids about the betrayal?
Well, this really kind of depends on age. And honestly, like we have a whole parenting issue at Turning to Peace that has it in there. So it really depends on age. But if we're talking like tweens, honestly, like we're talking about tweens, early teens, like mom and dad are going through something very difficult. There has been some actions that have been very hurtful. I'm taking some time to adjust. I'm taking some time to think over things. Nothing you need to be worried about. We are always going to take care of you and make sure that you have everything that you need. Those basic kind of just general explanations are really good. And also just if something is getting ready to change, like a big change, say dad's moving out, okay? Or dad has decided to go live with whoever. Dad has made a choice, or if you're separating, we have decided we're going to take some time apart, just so we can both work on our own healing and, work on what we need to work on. We still love you very, very much. And you are a priority to us. And then how are you feeling? How are you, is there something that, we can do to help this be a little bit easier? Can we, get you a new overnight bag? Can we, is there something that you really wish to have at the other parent's place that will help you stay comfort, have comfort, things like that. So, and asking what do you need,
I have a question about how you laid that out. And I'm very open to your answer or to your response to this, because I can be wrong. Okay. And I'm teachable. So I often say that now this requires that both the betrayed partner and betraying partner are working toward healing, whether that's individual, together, whatever, and making things, so this requires that there's some level of cooperation on both people. But I often tell parents that I think it is appropriate to include something like a statement where, let's say dad was the betraying partner, where the dad says, I did something that really hurt.
Oh, for sure.
And to take that ownership and to make it clear, there's a big issue here that we are working through, but to also say, I did something wrong and I hurt your mother, or if it's the mom, I hurt your father. I made a choice that hurt your father. So you, you do
and I'm
agree
taking some
it's
time
okay.
to go heal. Framing it in and again, this is if we're repairing a relationship, but really saying like, I'm going to do everything I can to make it right. I'm going to heal. I understand that what I've done also it's affecting you. So opening that conversation up to like, I understand, what do you need? What can I do also for you? Like, I understand that this is what I have done is completely rupturing our family, and this is a lot of words. So it really depends on the age of the child, but like giving bringing in your child to the conversation of I'm healing, I'm working on myself. What do you need right now? I realize that this affects you and this can be hard. And most of the time I think what they're going to say is oh no, I don't need anything. Nothing. How was your day? Did you learn anything? What did you do at school today? Nothing. That's just like their answer for everything. So, keeping that door open for them. Okay. If you need anything, please let us know, because we're here to talk when you're ready, because.
Yeah. So what if they're old? So that was if you were talking about tweens and young teens. What about older, 16, 17, 18-ish?
I still think the 16 for me, I think stays in that lower category, because I think also to take something into consideration is how much they have going on in their own personal lives. If they have a very rigorous schedule, because I know a lot of the teens that I work with are in sports, have jobs. And I think it's important to, keep things as, kind of what we have discussed, because you don't want to have them taking baggage, taking more anxiety and stress, like, about this kind of stuff to their job. But as they get older and they become adults, young adults and things of that nature, and I think it's okay to use language like your dad or your this parent had an affair, or this parent, or this parent has had a problem with the internet and using inappropriate content, and it's not healthy for our family. It's not healthy for the individual, those kinds of things. I really avoid, I think in all cases, avoid this, like we talked about, like this bad talking of the parent, regardless of how old they are, going off, you keep it like a court document. Just kind of like, there's no emotion, the data. Right. That's what I'm trying to get at, like the data. Yeah. Because then, there's less feeling of like picking sides, this feeling of, oh, I have to figure out something on my end. She's like, no, we're the parents, we're going to figure it out. Regardless of if you're 18, we're going to figure it out.
Yeah. And it's interesting because some teens that are very, very compliant and people pleasing, they're just going to sit and they're going to hear whatever you have to say. And you're going to ask if they have any questions, and they're probably going to say no. And you're right. And they're the ones that you probably need to keep circling back and checking on. But other teens, I see two common reactions that can be difficult for parents to navigate. One is the teen who's like, I don't want to know anything. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want I want nothing to do with any of this. Okay.
All right. You want to talk about the angry teen? That's like, we can go with that. The angry young adult, the one that's really, really mad that you guys screwed up and couldn't keep it together. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like that's me. And honestly, when I look back, the best thing that could have happened for me was that I had an outlet, and we're talking like I was 18, 19, still doing this. Like I was going to a therapist that I loved. And when I look back at it now, it's like she was actually a coach. Like she was cross-legged on the floor in her office. Like, let's talk about it. She was coaching me. And she just really, really helped me work through things that were, at that age, I was already having relationships and I was working through things like in those areas that did not work. I was still really, really mad at both of my parents for, just family rupture things. Now, here's what I want to speak to, though. Like, I had this help. I did a lot of healing. And I I healed out of it. I grew out of it, and there's a process here that there are things that when you're healing only come when that time is right for healing. Like, I'm still healing things from my childhood because I am raising my own kids. That would not have happened had I not had this experience in life, or I would not have been able to see, oh, I see why my mom made that decision. I see why my dad made that choice. Like, I see why I might have not had any say on it and it made me mad at the time, but I see now as an adult who's married and has kids on why they did it. So there's a lot of things that that your children aren't going to realize until it comes full circle in their own life.
Yeah. So well said. So that's one reaction. Another one on the other side, though, and I'm sure you've worked with kids like this, are the kids that want to know everything. They want to know every detail. They want to know right. And I say to parents whose kids are pushing back, like wanting more. Number one, please don't make your child your confidant. Please don't do that. Please, even if they're an adult, I would say that. But number two is, it is really healthy and it is a gift to the child for you to model boundaries. Hey, that question is one that your father and I, your mother and I, we've talked about it. We're not going to answer that question. That's for us. That part of the story is for us. That you don't get to know that part. You don't need to know that part. And that can be really hard. And I mean, you could go overboard with that and undershare and undercommunicate. But I'm talking about getting into the nitty gritty.
Don't do that.
Acting out and history and even what's happening between them and all of that. Like, draw that boundary, set that boundary, and feel the pushback. They will thank you later.
Yeah. And a lot of times I think there could be that idea that, like, well, I want my child to tell me everything, so I'm going to be an open book. And those two things don't necessarily go together at all. I think it's important to recognize that a lot of the times, in my personal experience of working with teens who kind of have all the information, what they have is all the anxiety. They have so much anxiety and they take on such a big responsibility on trying to figure out who is right and wrong. And that's really, whatever conclusion you come to, it really didn't make much of a difference. It just caused you a bunch of stress and anxiety trying to figure it out,
Yeah. That's so good. I could talk to you. I can tell I could talk to you about this all day long, but I'm mindful of the time, and and I want to. I do have one more question I want to ask, which I'm just so sure that there are people listening who are, even though we've already said it once, let it go, but they're struggling with grief and shame and guilt about maybe some things they've done. They're still really struggling just with the fact that they're seeing their kids hurt, right? Like, it's hard to watch your kids hurt, What message would you offer to a parent who's heartbroken, not just by this betrayal, whether they've received it or committed it, but by the ripple effects that they're seeing on their kids?
So what encouragement would I give?
Yeah. Message of hope, encouragement.
So one thing that I do want to encourage you is keep trying to build a healthy relationship. Okay. Your child, your teenager is very, very resilient. Okay. When offering your child the tools to grow, make decisions, thrive, if you offer those things to them, they are going to build resiliency and they will thrive. So right now you're seeing your teen go through, and I'm not trying to minimize it, but a very small period in their life. Okay. And if you do the healing work and they see you doing healing work, they're going to do healing work. Give them the resources. They will use them. And life as they kind of go on, they'll figure it out. I did not have the greatest circumstance. And I think the majority of us don't have the greatest, we all have ruptures. A lot of us have ruptures in this field. And I had parents who loved me, and they did the best that they could, and they gave me the resources. And statistically, I outshone what people might have thought would have happened. Therapy helped.
Yeah.
World experience helped. Trust the process. If you're a parent that cares, we're talking about parents that show up. Your child's going to be fine.
Yeah.
They're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, if you like, I have so many parents come to me and they're like, I'm so worried about my kid. They're struggling so much. I just noticed this dysregulation. They're crabby all the time. And I'm like, wow, like, you're already doing so great. Like, you reached out to someone, and I'm sure you're harder critic, because when I see your teens and they sit in my virtual office, you guys have great teens. Like, you got great kids. I got teenagers writing their first novels. I have got teenagers who are wanting to go to amazing colleges and succeed, who have GPAs that are so high, that are active in their community, are holding jobs, and just doing normal, figuring things out, even though they have these circumstances that feel like a lot as parents. Your kids are so resilient.
Good word. That is such a good word. I do want to take just a moment for you to share a little bit about Turning to Peace magazine. I think it's such a cool resource. So maybe you could talk for a minute about that. And if people are interested in that, sort of how to
Right. So the purpose of Turning to Peace Betrayal Support Magazine, it is a digital magazine that comes out every month. I have professionals from across the web, from across the world, submit healing articles, healing support groups. Basically, this magazine, the purpose of it is to centralize all of the resources so you don't have to Google them. And that way, it's just affordable care that brings all of us together in one place. So and you can see what everyone offers. You can get some information on, parenting, on divorce, on separation. We have high conflict information. The information in these magazines there's so much good stuff. And it would be so daunting to have to Google all the amazing things people are doing across the web. So my goal is to bring them all together so they're all in one place for you.
Awesome. And where can they go to learn more?
ttpmagazine.org.
ttpmagazine.org. Okay, and we'll have that link in the show notes. So anyone listening, if you're driving, don't try to write it down right now. Just go back to the show notes later. Ellia, this has been a great conversation. I know it's going to be helpful to so many people. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your time today. I just really
thank you for having me.